everybody, it's Jason Waha here. Today I thought I would chat with you guys a little bit about rep ranges for novice and intermediate lifters and why I tend to push people to stay between the 5 to 8 rep range. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now, when I say the 5 to 8 rep range, does that mean that that is the best possible rep range in all scenarios for hypertrophy? For strength, everything else? No, absolutely not. I'm not saying it's the best. Because when we start looking at the research, we know that the lower you go, the heavier you go, the better it is for strength, but that size and strength are heavily correlated. That only skews it a little bit. And we know that all rep ranges are capable of producing maximum hypertrophy. Multiple studies by some of the top researchers in the field are repeatedly finding that triples, 5s, 10s, 15s, all are capable of producing the exact same amount of muscle growth, right? That is no longer even debated. If you're still debating that, then you are way behind the times on the research, actually studying real athletes and in laboratories and working with people. You're behind the times. If you think that there's a hypertrophy rep range, get that crap out of your head. That is not based on reality. That's based on bodybuilding lore at this point and mythology. And hell, that's not even true for them. Plenty of those guys get jacked outside of the hypertrophy range. So it's not even true among the only demographic that preaches it. So why am I saying the 5 to 8? It has to do with balancing things well. It has to do with the fact that it strikes a very solid ground between hitting enough quality reps and volume per set, right? That's a big point we get to here, versus tension. I think it's kind of a sweet spot, and I feel like because of that, that the novice, and in some cases the intermediate lifter, until they get to a certain threshold, is capable of making the most prolonged progression with that. In other words, they're capable of working in that rep range the longest before they start to see serious stalls. You can prolong it for a long period of time without major complex programming needing to be involved. And I'm not saying higher reps and lower reps don't have their place. I mean, I've written periodization programs out there for you guys that have 10 rep sets, right? They're there. I personally am known for going months at a time, staying in the 1 to 3 rep range on everything I do, if not even going higher than 3 or 4. Myself, 4 months at a time. I have a history of doing that on camera. So we know I like the really low reps. For me, they're a sweet spot for maximum strength, and they should be. They are for everybody, right? So why am I saying this? Well, it has to do with quality reps per set versus tension. So we're talking about maximizing neuromuscular efficiency while still being able to maximize hypertrophy with the fewest sets possible. Because here's what we come down to. When we start looking at training volume, and people love the way I say that. They'll go type volume all weird in the bottom. Sorry, I am originally from Texas. I'm a native Texan, even though I've lived around the world. You guys have seen me do stuff in the UK and everything else. I'm from Texas. I'm back to you. You got to deal with my pronunciations. Volume. All right, when you start looking at training volume, pretty good data at this point showing that the only reps that really induce significant amounts of muscle growth, hypertrophy, gains, are reps that are usually within 5 reps of failure. In other words, your 10 rep max, you don't probably start growing till around 6. With a weight that's your 10 rep max, usually that 6th rep is where you start growing, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, when you're dealing with a 5 rep max, you're getting on all 5, right? If you go into doing sets of 5 with a 6 rep max, you're still getting 4. So a lot of times on our work sets, we are stopping a rep short of failure, because that's normal. So you figure on average, you're going to get about 4 quality reps if you're stopping roughly a rep short of failure. If you're not doing total limit sets on every set, now you can take long breaks and do pretty much bleeding edge 5 rep sets for 3 sets of 5, but you're going to need long breaks in between. So usually people are going to stop a rep short if they only want to rest a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, right? That's what you're going to do. So if you're trying to get your efficiency down, we're trying to cut down the work to as few sets as possible. Most people have a life outside of the gym. If you want to maximize muscle growth, we're trying to maximize growth with the fewest sets possible to make efficient use of your time. Therefore, you want to be very leery of dropping under about 5 reps. Why? When we drop under 5 reps, you know you're not going to get 5 quality reps per set. So if you're trying to get, say you're trying to get at least 15 quality reps or at least 12 quality reps, right? At least 12 reps on each exercise that are going to induce growth. you're going to have to do at least 3 sets that stop a rep short of failure. And if you do a limit set on the last one, you end up getting what about? You get about 13 quality reps that are actually capable of stimulating muscle growth. That's a pretty good amount of volume. That is usually enough to stimulate adaptation, particularly in the intermediate novice lifter. You'll grow off. You will absolutely 100% grow off of that, even off of a single exercise, right? 3 sets done like that, 12 to 13 quality reps that actually are growth stimulating, adaptative reps, you'll get there. So we don't really want to go under about 5 reps because of that, because you start dropping down to, if you're doing triples, there's no way you're getting 4 or 5 growth stimulating reps out of that. You're not. You end up having to do more sets. Now, we know if you do more sets of triples, you get the same gains. That's been confirmed in studies. 7 sets of 3, even with submaximal weight, produces the exact same muscle growth as 3 sets of 10 in the hypertrophy range in studies. It's been confirmed multiple times. Produces the same growth over like a 10 or 12-week program. But you end up doing 7 sets versus 3. All right, if we're sticking in this rep range, we are staying high enough in reps. We're hitting at least 5 reps. We know we're capable of getting 4 to 5 quality reps every set. We can probably get away with 3 work sets on each main exercise and still grow, at least up through the intermediate phase. In some cases, the advanced lifter still, right? We're getting enough adaptation. Problem is we go too high on reps, what happens? We don't see the strength increases. Those strength increases feed back into our hypertrophy. We need to have continual progress. You get stronger the lower the reps you go because of the heavier weight you're generally using. So for most people, you're going to find that unless you're wanting to go to some form of periodization where you start mixing rep ranges, you're going to be able to take longer periods of time before you plateau. If you're in that sweet spot, 5 to 8, usually closer to 5, you're getting enough quality reps on every set to stimulate muscle growth with a minimal number of sets. You're also hopefully going heavy enough that you're seeing significant strength gains to keep feeding the hypertrophy, because it is about strength and work capacity. It strikes a really good balance. Your training can be less complex in that rep range for a longer period of time before you need to start making it more complicated. And that's really ideal for people who don't have a lot of training experience. People with less than a couple years of serious training experience, that's really kind of a good situation to be in. The reason a lot of 5-rep programs are very successful novice programs and even intermediate programs for decades now. There's a reason for that. So that's where you're at with it. People say, well, what about more advanced lifters? Well, look at what I've done. Look at my DEXA scans on the last part of this cut. I have had people accuse me of blasting gear again just because I retained all of my lean mass during this last phase of this cut, right? Between these 2 DEXA scans, I lost 15 pounds of fat while keeping all of my muscle. For the unaware, newer lifters, usually advanced lifters, especially guys like me, older guys, even though, well, you're on TRT, I'm still older, guys. TRT isn't magic. It doesn't fix everything. And I'm still stuck in the normal testosterone range. Yeah, but I'm in my 40s. So usually for more advanced lifters and more mature lifters, when we lose any significant amount of body fat, we usually lose a little bit of muscle with it. In the best case of scenarios, that's normal. I did all my training during this phase in 4 to 8 reps, pretty much what I did. I did very, very little outside of that. I did a little bit. 90% of my training, because I do it all on camera, was done in the 4 to 8 rep range. That allowed me, even as an advanced lifter with high enough protein and cutting at a slow pace, just over 1 pound a week, to lose completely body fat. Lose only body fat. Every single pound of weight that I lost was fat during this last 13 weeks of this cut between the 2, confirmed by a DEXA scan. And, that's significant. That is significant. So even for advanced lifters, it can be a sweet spot when you're not trying to make serious hardcore progression. As we get more advanced and we want to progress sometimes, we've got to get a little more complicated with our training. But falling back to a more intermediate style template like that, the same thing you would have an intermediate try to grow on, right? Something like that rep range with just enough volume, just enough workload, can preserve muscle tissue in an advanced lifter. So if it can preserve muscle tissue in a calorie deficit for an advanced lifter, it works really well for an intermediate for putting size on them. So what I've been doing for the last 3 months, think about it in that perspective. What happens if you put someone on that who's been training for about a year and you have them actually try to progress and get stronger on it? They're going to gain muscle. They're going to gain a lot of muscle. they're going to probably make some of the best gains they could possibly make. So even for me as an advanced lifter during this last cutting phase, it allowed me to hold on to all my muscle tissue. That's hard to do. And anyone who's older and done DEXA scans or they've been training 5+ years, who've gone and had this stuff checked while they're cutting, they understand what I'm talking about. Losing 2 or 3 pounds of muscle in that time period isn't uncommon, and for some of you, that's an entire year's worth of gains. So again, I think it's kind of a sweet spot for a lot of people in their training, and that's the reason I advocated. I'm not saying the other rep ranges don't have their uses even for those people. I'm not saying they can't work. I'm just saying that you're going to have an easier time with the programming, and therefore it's going to be easier for you to get the results you want in terms of muscle mass and strength, or preserving muscle if you're trying to lose body fat more consistently. And I'm sorry guys, my dog is walking all over the hardwood floor. Nova, why are you messing up the video? But you know, he has his own fans also. Last time he did this, people are like, we don't care, we love Nova too. He can make all the puppy clomping sounds he wants. Some people get happy when they hear puppies tapping on the floor. I know I do. So, you know, quit being that way. If you don't like it, maybe you just need to quit hating animals. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.